Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to give you an update on Alt Engine / Cubic Engine, whatever you want to call it. So since last time, I've moved the entire project to use VCPKG as its package manager instead of whatever MSys2 I was using before, I believe. So yeah, now we're using cross-platform package manager. And I wish you could set it up to install packages automatically. That would be really nice, but instead I made a Python script that does everything that you need to, really. So it handles all of this stuff basically, meaning if you have any problems, you can run this and it might fix it. Other than that, I've also updated the project structure, so if you notice here, the include directory only includes external stuff now. And now I have a source directory which actually includes which includes scripts that I've written. So within here we have the editor and we have the engine. I've decided that the editor and the engine should be separate. I watched the channel video and he was like, maybe you should put the editor and the engine and the runtime separate. The editor and the runtime will obviously need the engine, but the editor and runtime and engine shouldn't be combined into one thing. And preferably should stay as separate as possible. And then you have the window here, which kind of is separate from the engine now. Before, window used to actually contain the renderer, but the engine now does that. And the editor now contains the engine, and the window itself is actually contained in the editor now. Which means the editor now actually handles rendering the window and updating it, so yeah. I don't know, I could probably have done this in a better way, but it doesn't really matter in the end. Like, as long as I get everything rendered and stuff, that's all that really matters. So, yeah. Anyways, with this, I do have a couple of things that, with this change, all of the stuff within the engine that you might notice here, there's a couple of things missing, I'm pretty sure, but mainly the texture class, but I'll come back to that later. Notice how all of the stuff that was in the include folder is now moved into this core folder, which contains a bunch of the core stuff used by the engine. Which currently does not contain that much code, basically just a renderer right now. But I plan on expanding upon it in the future, so yeah. It'll probably contain something in the future. Anyways, the second thing you'll probably notice is that there's a new components folder. And this is where I moved all of the components to, so texture, camera, and transform. These are the three current components. I even have a base class here, which actually does not contain anything really besides a type, which is defined here as none by default if you just create a base component, but these are the 4 component types currently. I want to turn this into like a vector or a map, so you can add your own components down the line, as I think that would be cool. But yeah, I've essentially built this entire component system, and it was slightly annoying, but it was worth it, I think. Because going down into our object really quickly, which would be in core. Now the object just basically has a bunch of components instead of having a bunch of variables for the different components and so on that was there before. Now it's just a bunch of components, which I actually quite like. Anyways, currently, the first component in the component array is the transform. I'm probably going to make the transform separate from the components vector because like you have complete access to this, so you could just go in and delete a component if you wanted to, including the transform, which is kind of a problem. So yeah, and I also need some getter and setter functions, or like some get component functions, not set components, and maybe some delete and add component functions too. If you're interested in how this entire thing works, so you have a component, a vector of component pointers, and then what you'll do is that you'll take those component pointers and you'll statically or dynamically cast it to whatever child it is, to whatever child component, and then you'll do whatever you want to do with it. And that's how it works. I believe you can use bit masking, and bit masking might be a bit faster. I'm not entirely sure, as I have never tested bit masking myself, and I didn't quite understand how it works. So, for the time being, static and dynamic cast is how we're going to be doing this. And there'll probably be some virtual functions in the future, so this might very well change to become dynamic casting in the future, but yeah. I think that's about it, I hope. I don't know much else, but if you want to see a working build really quickly of everything, here you go. It works perfectly fine as it usually do, as it should, so that's nice. And yeah, that's basically it, right? It's a pretty cool component system. I've actually probably been wanting to do it forever. But yeah, which means that technically the object class can have multiple textures now, although I'll probably have to implement actual support for it at some point. So yeah, there's many other changes that needs to be handled too. The to-do list is getting kind of big now with a bunch of stuff. Oh, and another change I've done, all of these scripts that I make all of the header files now HPP instead of H, to signal that they're designed for C++ and not C. Except core include. Core include I'm planning on getting rid of at some point. So we'll see how long it sticks around. Other than that, like, I don't think there's that much else to mention here that I've changed, because those were kind of the main changes over the past few months, right? I have been busy working on some other projects too, so I haven't actually worked much on the engine specifically, other than the restructuring and now the component system, and before that moving it to VC PKG. But those have been about the main changes I've done really over the past few months. But regardless, honestly, I'm quite impressed by how far I've gotten and how much better of a state it is in right now. As you'll probably notice here, it is very long having to just access the renderer and stuff. But I am planning, and when I say I am planning, on having the editor handle all of the interactions with the engine. So you'll do everything through like functions in the editor. Which should improve this a lot, because so at runtime you'll be doing everything for the editor instead of the engine, and I'll probably move a bunch of this code into like the editor constructor or whatever for like testing purposes, because I don't see a reason why it's in the main function really. So yeah. Anyways, we'll see, right? For the time being, it doesn't really matter. I'm still like early in development with this thing. But at least it's nice that, we've separated some stuff, because later on that could be much bigger of a nightmare having to separate them. And obviously in the source there'll be a runtime as well somewhere here. And documentation has also been split up into editor, engine, components, and core. So yeah. And the core also has buffer objects for the different buffer objects, so yeah. But that's about it, really. I don't think there's that many other changes that I've done. But yeah, obviously, like, it's pretty easy to just go in and add in a runtime later on when we'll need one. As the window does not contain the engine, and the engine doesn't contain the editor anymore. It's quite the opposite. The editor contains the engine and the window, and the runtime will likely contain the engine and the window as well. So, yeah. Which I think makes a lot of sense because the editor and the runtime are two separate things. They need to inherit a lot of the same things, or they need to contain a lot of the same things like a GLFW window and the actual game engine, but they shouldn't ever be like related to each other. I don't think that there's a necessary reason for that, unless you have like modding or something as like a priority of yours. Then maybe you can like have part of the editor in the runtime. But if modding is not like a huge concern for you, there's really no reason why the editor and runtime should be connected to each other. I can't think of any other reason really why you would do it. There's probably some other reason, I imagine, for why you would do that. But whatever it is, in my case specifically for the time being, there isn't really any reason. And honestly, it took quite a while. The CMake lists have had some updates too. So, yeah. But, yeah, I think that's about it for now. I think I'll see you guys next time when I inevitably in a few months make another update about some more stuff that's happened now. Until that point, I think I'll just see you guys next time. Goodbye.